You all saved your gas for the consequential sections.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't walk by the seat but not take care of it.
Oh yeah.
From here, that looks fancy.
If you're a mountain biker and you haven't been to the Kettle Crest region, you're missing out on something great. Northeastern Washington is pretty remote. I live in Washington, and it still took me 8 hours to drive there from my house. 8 hours of driving just to pedal some single track and maintain some trail, which honestly is something I could also do within a 45-minute drive of my house if I wanted to. So if we're going to sit in a car for hours to get there, there better be something really good on the other side. Let's find out what it is that makes the Kettle Crest worth the journey. Kettlefest is a yearly event that Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance has been sponsoring since 2009. Located in between the remote towns of Republican Kettle Falls, Washington, this area isn't exactly close to any major cities. Even Spokane is a couple of hours away from here. This is remote backcountry riding at its finest, and as such, it's a challenge to keep the trails open and maintained, and as it turns out, mountain bike access is not and has not always been a guarantee, and we wouldn't be able to ride any of these trails if it hadn't been for the work of partners across the eastern Washington and northern Idaho mountain biking community, as well as, believe it or not, local Colville tribe members. About 30 bikers showed up to the event this year, and the footage you're seeing here was gathered at the Jungle Hill Horse Campground. How is it that a bunch of mountain bikers would be allowed to take over a horse campground on a prime weekend in the middle of July?
This is more like a surgeon's scalpel. This is just like
Well, in order to answer that question, we'll need to take our digging and brushing tools up to the top of Sherman Pass to find out firsthand, because the campout happening at the bottom has a lot to do with what's happening at Sherman Pass. And the reason there are trails mountain bikers are allowed to use to connect the two. Evergreen was granted access to the stock campground in return for doing trail work on the Sherman Peak Loop Trail. So on Saturday morning, we did our standard safety speech we do at the beginning of every work party under the watchful gaze of the Iron Wolves standing sentinel over the highest mountain pass in the state of Washington. These types of events, they don't just fall into place without the committed involvement of stakeholders who take the time to form relationships with the community members whose preferences have the biggest effect on land managers. Basically, in order to make any of this possible, we had to convince the Forest Service that we are a partner they want to work with. Over the course of the last 20 years that mountain bikers have been involved with this trail system, there have been misunderstandings and disagreements between stakeholders that threatened to cut off mountain biker access to this area, mostly by other user groups who did not see a legitimate place for mountain bikers in the Kettle Crest zone, which passes through the ancestral lands of the Colville people. But it was, in fact, a tribal member, Tim Banning, who spearheaded mountain bikers' inclusion in the management plan for this area. He is also an avid mountain biker, and he wanted to make sure that mountain bikes would get to ride these trails, and his influence helped clear the way for us to be here. But out here in these more remote areas of Washington, influence covers a wide geographical area, and the one person who has been the most consistent presence at every one of these festivals is Al Casil, and it just so happens I came across him carrying a shovel on the Sherman Pass loop.
Okay,
Should I look at you or the camera?
look at the camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's your full name?
Almer Casil. Everybody calls me Al.
I asked Al about why this event is important for Evergreen, considering that it's so remote.
If you asked me back in 2009 or told me that there would be this partnership where Evergreen does trail maintenance with the Forest Service and it's all coordinated and planned and scheduled and we're on the same radios and towers and all these people are working together to accomplish this great goal of keeping trails open, I'll be like, you must be drinking. I don't understand where you're coming from. But now I see, we started the work party. The Forest Service is there. People are shaking hands. There's smiles when the Forest Service shows up. There's smiles with the Forest Service because Evergreen's there and, Mick, coordinating the whole event. If somebody told me that back in 2009, I was like, can we just first try to keep the trails open, much less work on them? Warms my heart to see that relationship grow that strongly. I mean, it's just something I would have never thought.
But aside from helping us as an organization gain credibility and learn how to build productive relationships with the Forest Service, Al had more to say about what's actually at stake here and why this is genuinely important.
My kids have grown up here. They're seeing the relationship with the Forest Service and how to do work and work hard. I mean, as a parent, you can't really ask for more than having a mountain bike kid that wants to do trail work. I mean, at least that's my goal in life, you know. Strong kids, strong family, riding together on backcountry trails, not a bike park. These are backcountry trails. So, yeah.
And I'll second how important it is to see families and riders of all ages and backgrounds coming to places like this and giving back and contributing. But I'd be remiss not to point out that even on the days that are supposed to be work, we all get something out of this.
Pretty impressive work, gentlemen.
Yeah, it definitely looks better. Yeah, that's Columbia.
And
then the Kettle kind of goes on the backside
yeah, we
of
did.
that ridge, wraps down through that saddle, I think. You see Jungle Hill or the other Wapaloosa over there. But
Even on this day when none of us rode our bikes until late in the afternoon, there was either a smile or a look of satisfaction on every face I encountered. And who wouldn't be happy in this work environment? Who doesn't like a chance to work outside and make something fun better in the process? Folks came from all over the state of Washington to attend this event. Everyone drove for hours to get here. What was found, though, was camaraderie, friendships that span the state, and an expansive sense of community that encircles all of it. This is the real reason we ride our bikes. This is the real reason we build trails and rehabilitate old ones. And the riding alone was worth the drive. I can emphatically recommend the Sherman Pass Trail. It's probably the best shuttle ride in the entire state. Jungle Hill was an amazing descent. The Sherman Pass Loop is some of the best scenery you'll ever access on a mountain bike. But this video isn't about any single trail. I'll release those later. But Kettlefest? Kettlefest is worth the drive. If I can spend 8 hours in the car to get here and still have a good time, so can you. You won't regret what you encounter up here. It definitely lives up to the hype. It definitely felt good to check off this bucket list item, and I'll absolutely be back in the future. Add it to your bucket list and get a chance to see a part of Washington you wouldn't otherwise experience and participate in improving it while you're here. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Low Me Goodness level sponsor, Charles Kim. I'd also like to thank my Hero Dirt level sponsors, Devin Young and Edward Lanton. If you'd like to join this list of supporters of informational content, navigate to patreon.com and sign up to toss a little support my direction. Now, get out there and go ride your bike.